we love a tier list. We do love a tier list. And this is the second part of our tier list. And this particular tier list is rating and ranking. Got to get that right. Players into, what we got? 1, 2, 3, is it 5 separate categories based on their performance last season? We got top tier, we got good work, as expected, tad disappointing, or and this is our second one. The first video is over on the main channel. If you haven't seen it, why not? You can go back and you can go and watch it now. The link will be in the description below and at the end of this video. Would you say that I was controversial? Anything particularly controversial in the first one, Gio?
I think there's possibly 1 or 2. I think some subscribers will disagree with 1 or 2 of them as well. But that's all right. As long as they're polite about it, I don't mind.
Absolutely. Well, who we got to come up now?
Right, let's have a little look then. Let's get straight into it. We've got Ben Johnson. I mean, we're going to start on a bit of a downer here, but Gonzo, he's got to go in the very bottom one. I feel really strongly about this.
It's sad, isn't it? It's sad. I feel mean doing it, actually. I had big hopes for Ben Johnson. I thought he was going to be a really important squad player. I never thought he was going to be a world beater. I didn't think he was going to turn into Cafu, but I did think that what we had was somebody who was absolute Premier League standard, could play almost anywhere across the back four, numerous different positions, different systems. These players are invaluable. You're Phil Neville, if you like, that type. West Ham, through the academy since he was obviously homegrown. Almost every box is ticked with him. But I just feel his form dropped off a cliff. And it was a hard thing to see. You watched him break down and capitulate against Brighton. And I can't remember what the game was afterwards. There was a game he sort of, Moyes didn't use him in what would have been a good repair game in a European game.
Yeah, that was against Larnaca.
Yeah, and then we had to throw him in a league game, and he didn't look good in that either. And you have to say, I thought this was his breakthrough season. I think this has been his worst season. Yeah,
I completely agree. I thought it was his breakthrough season, and so actually it's his breakdown season. I think it got to the point where we couldn't even use him. He was just gone. It was like we can't play him. He's got no confidence. He's just riddled with nerves. The players, if he feels like that, the players will feel like that about him as well. I think we can't give him the ball. The ball goes near him. He's going to let it bounce. He's going to take 3 touches instead of 2. And he looked okay against Brentford. The dead rubber at the end of the season. Yes. He looked okay in that, and I was pleased to see that. It was a no pressure game. I thought that's the right game. So while Moyes mismanaged him a little bit off the back of the Brighton performance, I do think he did relatively well. Just giving him that game against Brentford where it doesn't really matter kind of thing. But a year ago, when we sat here I'd have been thinking, you know what, he's never really going to be the first choice right back or the first choice left back, but that's okay. Being sort of second choice in both positions and being able to cover, he will rack up appearances throughout the season. And it's what is a lot of people consider to be his strength, which is he can cover various positions. I actually think it's his biggest weakness. I think especially when you're a young age, when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, the last thing you want to be doing is covering too many positions because you will just get moved around. Whereas if you've only got one, you can only play one role. You get in there, you make it your own, you hold on to that shirt kind of thing. But you make it easy for the manager to take you back out and move you if you can play somewhere else. And I feel a little bit sorry for Ben Johnson. I actually think his biggest strength is his biggest weakness. And I think we've seen that this season. He's probably played in most positions out of anybody in the squad. I'd be surprised if someone in the squad has played more different positions than what Ben Johnson has. And that's including Flynn Downs playing defensive mid, centre mid, right wing, attacking mid. And if anything, that's what's happening with Downs a little bit. He's playing too many different positions. You can play that, you can cover there. Actually, he needs to nail down one. But I've been so disappointed with Ben Johnson. If he wasn't an academy player, I'd want to see him sold this summer, but because he's got that attachment and there's a romance in me, Gonzo. I don't want to see next season with no academy player. But if Declan Rice goes, there's every chance, and Johnson goes, we won't have an academy. I know Mubama will be there, but the minutes will be few and far between. And I can't remember the last time that happened. It is Mark Noble's fault because Mark Noble played so many bloody years. We've not had to worry about it for a decade and a half. But now we might have our first West Ham squad next season. When you go on the Premier League website and you look at the players registered, if Johnson goes this summer, there will not be an academy player there, and I think that's a sad day for the football club. But Ben Johnson, I mean, what a horrific season he's had. Not all his fault, but
yeah.
sad.
Well, I hope he can repair it. I hope he can come back. I really do, because I do think there is a player there. Absolutely.
Another player, though, that's sort of like a victim of our rubbish contract negotiations, though. I mean, his contract situation has been going on for 2-3 years now, and it's got to get you down. But anyway, Thilo Kehrer.
Well, the thing is, I don't know what as expected is with Thilo Kehrer, because I don't know what I expected. I feel that there was a bit of a roller coaster with him. I thought when he came in and he played at centre back, I thought when he first came in, he was brilliant.
Yeah,
people were saying, "Wow, what a fantastic player we have here." Soucek's form dipped. We were looking for someone to fill in at right back. He went and played at right back, and he was atrocious. As bad as you've, well, actually not as bad as you've seen, for reasons we just explained. But he was bad, really, really bad. And then he sort of went out of the team. I think that sort of coincided with a Gerd coming back. So we now, and then not only that happened, Ogbonna repaired himself in Europe. So all of a sudden, we now had two options to play alongside Kurt Zouma, which I think saw Kehrer out of the team at centre back. But I think he came back really, really well, and towards the end, really played his part. And I no longer think that we've got a. I used to really worry. I used to always think, oh, hold on a second, what's he going to do here? He's going to do something silly. I think he knocked that out of his game, and actually, so I think I'm going to go with as expected, because I think come the end of the season, he hadn't had a bad campaign.
I would actually put him in good work, but I'll let you have this one because I think the majority would agree with you. But I would put him in good work, and the reason being is because unlike Scamacca and, well, I say Scamacca really, I had an expectation for Kehrer, but not based on PSG, but based on a bit of Germany and what I've seen from him at Schalke. And I hadn't seen him play right back, really. So when we started moving him to right back, I thought, hang on a minute, this guy's erratic. He does get rushes of blood to his head. He does come running out of defence quite a lot. And that's, again, was part of his strength in the Bundesliga, because he was quite an aggressive centre-back. And we saw it quite early at West Ham when he came in and played centre-back. We saw that. But it was working and he was good at it. But so when we put him to right back, it's easier to expose as a fullback if you're 10 yards out of position, whatever, and he was drifting away. But after the first game against Wolves, we should have stopped it. We should have, right, okay, he can't play right back, let's get him out. But we continued to play him.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of sympathy for him, because I thought he's just not a right back. And I know he has experience of playing right back for Germany, but I'm sorry, there's a massive difference playing for Germany and PSG and West Ham United, two clubs who will have the majority of possession, will be playing attacking football, and then suddenly he's at West Ham and he's defending more than ever. You're going to get exposed. You're going to struggle with your positioning. Quite. So I actually think Thilo Kehrer had a really good season for us. I think at centre back, I don't think he's had many poor games at all. I think he's been brilliant. At the end of the season, we actually saw a couple of good performances from him at right back. Very unlucky not to start in Prague. Obviously came on for Zouma, played really well, played his part in the final. And I've got a real... He has done what Pablo Fornals has done on steroids. He hasn't gone away and learnt the history of West Ham, though. Fornals has gone away and integrated himself in the culture of West Ham. But you see the footage from the parade and stuff, and Kehler's there singing all the songs and stuff. I thought, there's a man that's dived 2-footed into this club.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's not just joined West Ham as an employer. It's not, West Ham's not his employer. West Ham's his football club. And I think sometimes the two can be completely different. Scamacca, you get the impression, looks at West Ham as his current employer. Yeah. It's my job, and it's my job only. I turn up to training, I go home. I don't think about West Ham. And that is fine. He's a footballer. But with Kehrer, you get the feeling that he turns up and he loves it. You wouldn't be surprised if he's asking the kit man, why did he sing bubbles? What's this about, mate? Yeah. What's that?
He's very likable, isn't he?
He is. I've got a man crush on him the last week.
Yeah.
All that footage from the parade and stuff. I love that. I absolutely love it. You get the feeling he's loving life at West Ham, and I found myself really rooting for him to succeed in the last few weeks, really. But I actually think he's had a good season. but we'll put him in as expected. And let me just flip back over to the tier list. And we're going with Manuel Lanzini.
Oh, well, there you go. I think you said it. I said,
no chance.
Just what? Not on
No.
Why are you going to put him then?
Well, I was going to put him in as expected, but we'll meet halfway and go tad disappointing. Why would you put him in the bottom one?
He's not done it. He's barely played. Barely played.
But that's why I expected. I didn't expect him to play
fair
much.
enough. He stated, "Oh, I don't blame him. Look, let's."
No, me neither.
Look, we haven't got. Yeah, we haven't got Scamacca yet. And by the way, I'll preempt that and say, well, I don't blame him for what I'm about to say. You little spoiler. Put an advert in now. Sorry, a bit of strategic advertising. Got to pay crikey. You've seen the price of beef burgers at Aldi now. Got to turn a coin somehow. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, where were we going? Yeah, Lanzini. We stayed one season too many. Again, not his fault. Loyal to West Ham. He loves West Ham. I can tell that. His dad follows him around and all the rest of it. So I think that's really good. But there were times when I would have liked to see Lanzini play more. I really were, but it just hasn't happened. So am I disappointed in him? No, I'm just disappointed I didn't see him more.
Yeah, I think it's expected for me. I didn't expect him to get much minutes. He hasn't got much minutes, but I can't really argue my case that strongly, to be honest with you, because of the lack of game time. So we'll leave him where he is, and tad disappointing. Ogbonna.
I think it's good work.
I was going to say it's good work for me, actually. Let's put in the biggest bit of context here.
Go on, I think you know what I'm going to say and what I feel about it.
The man had a career-ending injury. Like, to come back from that, and then you have to take his age into consideration, but the mental strength as well, and to come back from it. And when he came back, I was worried because he looked a little bit rusty in that Conference League group stage games. He was getting off with it because the opponent was so poor. And I thought, this is... But once we were in the knockout stage, I thought, can we really see Ogbonna again? The opponents are now too difficult. The games are now too big. We're in a relegation battle in the knockout stage of European football. Can we use Ogbonna? Yeah, we can, only because of what he did. And he was absolutely excellent this season. I think he's been absolutely tremendous. And, he's 34. He'll be 35 next season. I assume he's going to get a new deal, and I'm not against it, actually. So there you go. Well done, Ogbonna.
Well said. I echo absolutely everything. The only thing I would add to that is just, put it in a little catchphrase, if you like, which is he went from being somebody I didn't think would play for West Ham again to being a proper option for when you went to choose your Premier League centre backs. That's a long catchphrase, but you know what I mean.
I completely get what you're saying. It makes complete sense. So Bonner's staying in. Good work. Well done, Angelo. Emerson.
I'm going to go as expected, but actually,
no. He's going in good work. You're wrong here, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Me and you thought he was a bang average signing.
Well, I was just about to say that. I was going to say, in terms of words, I'm going to put as expected, but actually turned out better than I expected, was what I was going to say. Yeah, okay. You've already talked me around. Yeah. I think he's a good player. He's a decent player. I still don't look at him and see, I don't think we got some massive bargain. We paid 13 million and we got, a 30 million pound, 13 million. But that was crucial at the end. Big game experience, and he's not won every European trophy. So let's get this right. He's won the European Championships with Italy, right? We've got that right. He's won the Champions League, he's won the Europos Cupos, and he's won the Conference League. That's right, isn't it? That's not. You have to make real big excuse to try and make out that they were all accidental. There is a theme, once can be anything, twice a coincidence, 3 times a trend. That's what I've always said. 4 times, I think you just got a winner on your hands there. So he's obviously got that big game mentality. So yeah, absolutely brilliant, mate.
Yeah, I completely agree. When we first signed him, I was a bit, I wasn't even sure he was going to displace Creswell. And I would argue at the start of the season, I was correct. He didn't displace Creswell immediately. But when he came in, he did well. And even when Creswell got his place back in the team, I thought that's a bit harsh on Emerson. Emerson did not deserve that. And then, funnily enough, I'd argue Creswell didn't deserve to be dropped for the final. But Emerson went in. I thought he was possibly our man of the match, actually. I thought he had a really, really good game. And he's different to Creswell. What I like is we've got two left backs with a completely different set of strengths and weaknesses. And that's not a bad thing. I'd prefer to have a number 3. That's the main man, and he starts until he's injured kind of thing. We don't really have one of them. I think Emerson's probably got the edge on Creswell now. But if they were both the same age, I would argue that that wouldn't be the case. I think they'd play the same amount of games, really. And that's not a bad thing. But I think I think Emerson's had a good season, so I'm happy with him in that category. Like you said, when he first rocked up, we weren't too impressed, but he's done really well. Now, Lucas Paqueta, he's obviously going to go here at worst. But is there an argument that he goes there, Gonzo?
There is an argument, but he did that. Is he a top tier player? Absolutely.
Is there a but coming?
There is a but. He didn't start the season well. Once again, as I will say for a number of players here, I don't overly blame him for that. I was gobsmacked at what David Moyes said after the World Cup. I'm going to look at Lucas Paqueta in the World Cup, and I think I might know where to play him now. Oh my words! So I don't know. I really don't know what was going on there. But he took time to adjust to the Premier League, which again is nothing wrong with that. He thought he had more time. I remember games at the start, he was just dwelling on the ball too long. The ball was getting taken off of him. And then he would sort of almost ask for a foul. That's all just acclimatizing. He's there now. He's there. And he is absolutely top. For all the season. I don't know, but I mean there are only I thought there were only 2 players as contenders for top tier when you said we were going to do this, and he was one of them.
Oh, there's 3 for me, and he was one of them. You've forgot someone. Trust me, you forgot someone. When I come pick him up, you'll say, "Oh yeah, top tier." I promise you have forgot someone. Anyway, Lucas Paqueta, I'll leave him in the second one, but I think he's close to that top one for me because they adjusted to the Premier League fine. If anything, I think he's adjusted pretty quickly, to be honest with you. I think it's not like we've signed a right back and we've put him in his optimum position and said, there you go, learn the Premier League. You don't need to learn the role. You know that. You're in the role. Learn it. We put Paqueta in the wrong role. We basically said, learn the role and learn the league at the same time, will you? That was a bit much. We removed it a little bit. So now you've just got to get used to the Premier League. And I think he got used to it pretty quickly, actually. I do feel like he doesn't dwindle on the ball too much. I still think there's elements he needs to improve on. I think he can be a little bit whingy still. When he gets knocked over, he sits there and it's a bit frustrating because for the next minute you're playing with 10 men because he's looking for a free kick. And some of them, there's no contact. I think it was Liverpool we played. I think Fabinho just kicked the ball harder than he did. So he rolled around and stuff. And he thought, like, unfortunately, you've got to get up. You can't just do that. And it's causing us problems now. Get up. But that will come. He will learn that. I think he's had a brilliant season, actually. This season's been, in terms of entertainment, there's been very little of it. Very, very little. Even games we've won, it's been tough to watch. He's provided it. And when we have been winning, the flares come out and, he's flicking the ball over Man United players' heads and stuff. And that is what I like in football. There's a time and a place for it. And I think he knows it. I'm not seeing him do that when we're 2-0 down. I'm not seeing Paqueta go, hey, let's start this step over. He's not that type of player. But when we are winning, that's when the bravado starts to come out. And I've got a lot of time for a player that not only does it, but also can actually do it. And he uses his skills to great effect. He'll do a little flick and a pass, but it will actually go to the player he's intending on to go into. Yeah. He did against Man U. We had 2 brand new players. He dragged it and flicked it to Ben Rama. Ben Rama was way down the line. There. Some players do skill for skill's sake.
It's indulgent. They're indulgent.
They'll do a couple of step overs. They don't actually go anywhere with it. It's just looks okay, but that's it. Paqueta actually has a purpose to what he does. But we'll put him in there. But I'll tell you what, when we do this in 12 months, Gonzo, he better bloody be in top tier. He has to be. He's good enough. He's got to be. Next up, we've got Declan.
Yeah, Declan's he's top tier. I think there was a point where his contract well, so you can't really do this video without talking about that situation that he's leaving, whereby we were asking for a price and we thought, oh, I don't know if we get there. The way he finished the season, he made sure that West Ham get that 100 million. All right, I might look silly now by us getting 95, but you know what I mean. It was, I felt there was definitely a point this season where it was Arsenal and only Arsenal, and actually Arsenal were going to try with 70 million.
Yeah,
I really felt
it was.
that.
Yeah.
But by the time the way finished, I think even Arsenal know actually we can't even give that. So I don't think there's anything else I can add to Declan Rice. I'm doing a video. Well, when we release this video, it's probably going to be Saturday. So as we record it, what day is it? Wednesday. Record it on Wednesday. It's Wednesday today. I'm doing a video later on with an Arsenal channel, and the reason we're doing it is because they're going to sign him, and he wants a West Ham opinion on Declan Rice, and I'm just going to have absolutely glowing things to say about him, and I'll be telling him on there that you're going to get Declan Rice, and at some point somebody's going to say, oh, look, Declan Rice has developed into a world-class player at Arsenal. He already is. If you want to go and look a little montage of his best stuff, it's amazing. That was it against Ghent, or what? That dribble, that run, that goal. His tackles, he's dribbling, he's grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. Declan Rice has grabbed his own. Never mind all of that. That's all football stuff. Forget about kicking the ball, right? He's grabbed destiny. It's an amazing thing to do. He's grabbed his own destiny by his hands and driven himself and the club to the destiny of winning a trophy. And he knows what he's doing. So as he can leave and all that stuff, he's a good guy. So he's humble enough when people are saying, oh, Billy Bonds, Bobby Moore. And he's saying, oh, no, he's withdrawing from those comments because he's doing a whole humble thing. I get it. But he knows what he's doing. He knew that he was grasping destiny. He was seizing the moment. He knew it was his moment. And he knew it was the club's moment to allow himself to leave on a high. So as actually, sometimes I say about Pep Guardiola, he's won a trophy. You heard it last few days. Oh yeah, but could he have managed Stoke to a title or whatever? He's already cut that off. Declan Rice may well go off to Arsenal and win lots of trophies. But that whole argument, oh, you only win trophies because you're amongst great players. No, I was doing it before. He's an amazing player, top tier.
Yeah, man of match every second game this season for us. When I was at St James's, a couple of them said to me, every Newcastle game last season, the one's just finished, every Newcastle game, man of match was a home player, except when we played West Ham. Declan Rice won it. So they gave Declan Rice man of match. They basically said, just look at him. He said, that's not happened. He said, we had Man City, we had Arsenal, Man U, Liverpool, Newcastle player. They're man of match. They're biased. Of course they are. They're picking their own players. But when they played West Ham, Declan Rice got the Newcastle United fans man of the match. And he told me that, and it made me more sad. I thought, nice one, mate. Now we're more the best. But I actually think that's one of the biggest compliments you can get, really. Like when the opposition fans think you're better than their entire team. And that was a game that was a draw. We didn't even win. And they thought Declan Rice was the best player on pitch. But this season...
Cornell will do it up there next season.
There's an argument we would have got relegated without Declan Rice. You can't say that about many players in our team. Would we have got relegated without Cresswell? No. Emerson? No. Sufal, Kehrer? We're probably on more points. We wouldn't have Kehrer. But my point is, you can go through the West Ham team, and the answer is no to the majority. There's one or two you can make an argument for. I would argue that even without Paqueta, we wouldn't have got relegated. But with Declan Rice, we would have done. For having a midfielder that doesn't score goals to be worth points to your team, that is incredibly rare. It's a bit like Casemiro at Man United. Casemiro is worth points to Man U, even though he may not get the goals, but just his all-round play is worth points. It allows your team to play. Rice has had a fantastic season. And the worst thing is, it's not even his best season at West Ham. I've seen him have a better season than what we've just seen, but he was still our best player by a country mile. Anyway, Declan Rice goes in the top tier on his own for now until Gonzo remembers the player he forgot. But what about Gianluca Scamacca?
Yeah, I mean, it's he's lucky to go in disappointing. He probably deserves to go in. I did the disclaimer before this. I've apportioned no blame to Scamacca for this. £35 million doesn't sound that much because we've already spent 50 million and 40 odd million on Kehrer. £35 million, a lot of money. A lot of money for a strike for any player. Waited 18 months to get this player in. We bid for others, Darwin Núñez and Armando Broja, and Nesiri, or whatever his name is. This is the one we got in. And it has been a failure of a transfer. Just a failure. I think he'll go. I think for him to stay, you'd have to have a new manager coming in who was going to play a 2 up front or something like that, or some sort of inventive formation, and I'd have to really persuade him. And I don't think any of that's going to happen. So I think he's going to go. There's no desire at the club to loan him. Why would we want to? We need funds. You spoke about financial fair play. Maybe in this video, was it the previous video?
Neither. It was all fair to you, but never mind.
Head coach, cheers, nice one. A little chat, little conversation. That's going to help. That's funny, isn't it? That's going to help it. That's going to help our financial fair play. Hey, it's a good job I'm not repeating everything we discuss in conversation off air. I can't believe we spoke about that on a video. Anyway, so we're going to sell him. If we sell him, we're selling him at a loss. We absolutely will. I'm not saying he hasn't shown promise. He absolutely has. There was a little period. I think when he first came in, he wasn't straight in the team. Antonio was still in the team. 3 or 4 games, something like that. Gets in the team. Looks like he's a couple of goals in Europe, strikers' goals, instinctive stuff. Good goal against Wolves. There's a point where he looked really good, but then it just petered out. David Moyes said it best himself, which is I've had to break things from last season. Had to try and play more attractive style of football. It didn't work, so I reverted back to what we did, and that's accurate. That's accurate. Scamacca suffered because of that, because at that point we reverted back. You needed somebody that was going to be as comfortable facing the goal as he was going to be with his back to goal, and you needed someone that's going to be able to pull out wide and have some pace, and that's just not him. So I think it's more than just a tad disappointing. To spend 35 million on a striker and wait for him for 18 months, and for that to happen, what's just happened, is incredibly disappointing. But I don't blame him. Wrong player, wrong time. As far as Scamacca's probably thinking, wrong club.
Yeah, I'm gutted. That Wolves game, I thought he looked incredible against Wolves. I thought, wow, what a striker this guy is. His control, his vision, his passing, his movement, his finish. I thought he had everything. And that 90 minutes was the best performance I've seen from a striker at West Ham. I can't even think when the last one was, mate.
A Dean Ashton thing or something, maybe. I don't know.
Something like that. I mean, Antonius has some big performances in between.
Yeah, maybe an but I know what you mean. There's not many.
Yeah. I couldn't wait for more, and it's just never arrived. It just didn't happen. The worst thing is, it's the Sebastian Haller thing again. As soon as Haller went to Ajax, you knew what was going to happen. He's going to go there, he's going to score goals, and we're going to look stupid. And it's the same with Scamacca. Wherever he goes, if it is Roma, it looks like it's Roma, he's going to go to Roma next season, he's going to score goals, and we're going to look stupid again. Because he's got the ability, there's no doubt about that. Even in a system that doesn't suit him, with a manager that doesn't suit him, a player that doesn't suit the manager, he still looked good. And if you look good when everything's sort of going against you in order to look good, you're a damn fine footballer, and we're going to see that. But you can count on one hand how many times you saw that from Scamacca at West Ham. It's just disappointing, and the injury didn't help at all. But
he's going to get frustrated at Roma, though, if Mourinho's still there.
Yes, possibly. I don't watch enough of Roma football to suggest that that they still play Mourinho away. I assume they would, but wait and see. Anyway, back to your list. We've got 3 left to go. We've got Thomas Soucek.
Disappointing. He's been again one of these players, not on his own. There's lots of them over both these 2 tier list videos that we've done, and it's reflective of how the team has performed. But he was bloody awful for some points this season. I don't know where about pulling the whole cave apart. Oh no, it's here. Our player ratings that we do for our Patreon, Geo, there's times in here where Soucek got a 4 out of 10. Soucek got a 3. There you go. Newcastle. We lost 5-1 to Newcastle. Soucek got a 3 out of 10. There you go. Against Villa, 3 out of 10. It was pretty bad. Pretty bad. With some awful marks here. I don't think it was helped that he'd played so many games over what's probably a 3-year period. Didn't really feel like he'd had a rest. That hasn't helped. Didn't feel like he wasn't ever taken out the firing line by David Moyes when he was absolutely terrible, which I felt was unfair on him because he probably deserved an opportunity to repair himself rather than, the moans and groans. That's where we got to. He was left on the pitch for so long. Every time he gave the ball away, the fans were moaning and groaning. We've had a game where he's made 8 passes in the match. We've had another game where he's made 9 passes in the match, 11 passes in the match. We've had stuff like that. He's had his position changed. So we've got every sympathy for him. He picks it up at the end. He really did, but it's not enough. The player we saw this season compared to the one we bought are light years apart. But I was really pleased how it ended in Prague and the rest of it. But it's been a bit of crap season.
I was going to put him in as expected because it is what I thought we were going to get, but we'll leave him in a bit disappointed because even there were some games that even though my expectation was pretty low, he was still under-delivering on that. It was just like, can you just defend, essentially? And he was still not necessarily doing that part of the game where his simple passes weren't really happening. Not really sure what the future holds for Thomas Soucek because you don't really want to see a makeup of a midfield with him in it next season. Can you really bring him off the bench? I guess so, but then we really are going route one stuff. If that's the guy we're bringing on to get a goal, that's when it is just long ball football we're encouraging. So a bit of a crossroads for Soucek in his career. But I'll be shocked if he's not here next season because I think he will still continue to play. I don't think the manager has an issue with Soucek's lack of ability in possession. If anything, the fact that we tried this whole transition thing and it didn't work out justifies Moyes in retaining Soucek, saying, well, I'm going back to what I know, and that's a very important part of it. So I'm going to keep him in the midfield next season. Thank you very much. So I think he's actually just going to continue doing what he's doing next year, Soucek, that is. But the past 12 months haven't been great for him. A couple of good performances here and there, but quite a few bad ones, actually. And I feel a bit sorry for him. But it's not good enough, really. If we want to move forward, if we want to be better, he's someone that... This is where West Ham... The one criticism I've always had of the club is we're crap at selling players. We don't know when to sell them or what to get for them. I mean, there's an argument that when we decided 12 months ago we're going to do this whole transition thing, I'm shocked the club had that conversation and not once did it come up, well, we should probably sell Soucek then because we're going to go to a more possession-based side. We can no longer use him. He's worth 20, 30 million. Let's get the money for him and buy someone that can actually play the way we want to play. You're going to transition, do it properly. But we went half-hearted and thought, well, we're getting 1 or 2 players, but we'll continue using the other players that can't do this, and then we'll scratch our head in 6 months as to why it's not worked out, kind of thing. The club needs to be more ruthless when it comes to selling players, and Soucek is someone that's benefited from us not having that, what I would consider a vital characteristic of a football club, actually. Just say, no, sorry, your time here's done, away you go. Yep. Sell players, and how often do we see other clubs selling players and go, whoa, what? And then how often do you then think they were wrong? It's not very. You think, actually, they turned out to do the right thing there. Yeah, because they have a plan. And the minute we decided we're going to have more possession was the minute Soucek was no longer needed at this club. And it's not his fault, though, but tad disappointing. Second last player, Gonzo, is Kurt Zouma.
Top tier, mate.
Yeah, top tier.
He is one of the best defenders in the league. And it's amazing. I was going to say his ability of recovery. I'm not even sure he does recover. I think, irrespective of whether he's recovered or not, he can just play and defend at an incredibly high standard. He is. We were at a position not too long ago when Antonio was scoring, maybe 2 seasons ago, season and a half ago, and Antonio was scoring lots of goals in the Premier League. And Antonio looks like one of the best forwards in the Premier League, whether you want to call him a striker or not. Antonio, at one point, looked like one of the best forwards in the Premier League. And he was unplayable. And I looked, I thought, we're actually, number one, we're lucky that we've got him. But number two, we're lucky he's the age he is and that he's injury prone, because a 23-year-old version of that Antonio that wasn't injury prone would have been picked off and would have been going to play elsewhere. And I think we find ourselves in a similar situation with Kurt Zouma. He's just too injury prone and he's too old for the very top clubs to want him. But make no mistake about it, I look at, with almost every club with the exception of 1 or 2, and think he would improve your defence. I look at Liverpool and think, if you had him in there, you wouldn't have the problems that you have. Man United, there have been plenty of times this season. I know the Martinez has done okay there and started poorly and progressed into a decent player. But I looked at Man United and think, if you had Zouma in there next to him, you'd have far less problems. And you could go through a number of teams, barring 2 or 3. He is an amazing player, a fantastic player, and he is absolutely top tier. And he's got a winner's medal. And I'm not surprised that David Moyes pushed so hard to get him, because even despite his injuries, it has actually worked out.
Yeah, top player, top season from him. First name on the team sheet, really, along with Declan Rice. Is Zouma fit? Kind of. He's going in. That'll do. And he goes, kind of thing. There's not many players get into the team when they're 80% fit. And if you do, you're bloody good. You have to be bloody good. But I don't mind it. I don't mind an injury. We can't have any other injury-prone centre-backs. You're only allowed one per position, and that is it. We've got it, and he's good enough. And if you are going to have an injury-prone player, this is how good they have to be. They have to be that good that they walk into the team when they're fit. And like you said, the reason we're able to retain them is because of that injury-proneness. But I think he's been superb. If he was fit all season, he'd be pushing Rice for Ham of the Year, I reckon. Really had a bad game. He had 1 or 2. One of them in particular was Leeds, the second last game of the season. I don't really count it. We were home and hosed by then. He just got one game too much for him, really, and obviously had to go off in the final as well, which obviously makes you feel a bit gutted for him because he's just missed out on that last part of the final because of his injuriness. But what a fantastic player. He's had a superb season. Like I said about Declan Rice, without Kurt Zouma, we get relegated this season. He is a tremendous defender. And that leads us on to our last player, Gonzo, Danny Ings.
Well, it's been disappointing, but I expected that. I got exactly what I thought with Danny Ings, which was a player ill-suited to our system. I don't know, and I will never know why we signed this player. We can all list the dynamics required for a striker in David Moyes' system.
1, we're desperate, and 2, and right, I'll make this argument, and I can't prove it. It's a completely hypothetical, but we stopped Everton buying him. Everton needed a striker. Bill Kenwright said, we will get a striker. Sean Dyche goes in there, who knows Danny Ings. We're in a relegation battle with Everton. We can't afford Everton to... Could you imagine Everton went and signed Danny Ings and we got relegated and Danny Ings scored 6 goals for Everton or something? How stupid would we look if it comes out, oh, well, we could have signed him. We chose not to. We let him go. We would look stupid. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best transfer strategy, but literally last January, Newcastle went and got Chris Wood from Burnley and said, bang, into the relegation zone you go. We're out of it. What did they do in the summer? They loaned him out. They've sold him now to Nottingham Forest. They knew they were only getting Chris Wood for 6 months, and that was it. But A, they were covering their arses, and B, they were just pushing another team right into that relegation zone. Was that part of our thinking? Possibly not. But Everton needed a striker, and there's not that many strikers available with Premier League experience. I think that's one that would have been one of our filters in the January, which is we need someone that can do it. And I still argue his goals against Nottingham Forest and his goal against Ghent, they're crucial. They're absolutely crucial to us staying up and then going on to win the Conference League. You don't know what would have happened. Has it worked out? No. I'm agreeing with you, by the way, as expected, because that is what we thought we'd get. A guy that needs a partner. We're not going to play one. I naively thought we were maybe going to start playing him with a partner. But lo and behold, we didn't. But we will get, I'll tell you now, I'll make this prediction now, Gonzo. In January, I reckon we can get 10 million for him.
When someone's desperate for a striker. Yeah.
And they're looking round and we're going, hey, we've got a really good proven Premier League goal scorer here for you. 10 million, gets you 3 goals. It might keep you up and worth 100 million to your club.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, it was nice to see him celebrating well with the squad, by the way. And he gets a winner's medal. You know, and that's, I don't know how many medals Danny Ings has got, but that's, you know, he might look
Southampton haven't won anything, so
no. I mean, did they win anything at Liverpool when he was there? Don't think they did. I don't know. I might be wrong. That might be Danny Ings's first proper medal. So, you know, maybe he might view it as being a good thing. And I ultimately I don't care. I don't think it's worked out. But there you go. So what have we got? How many have we got? 2 in the top tier and how many in the bottom?
Yeah, there you go. So the tier list looks as follows. In the top tier, we've got Declan Rice and Zouma Gonzo. In good work, so the players that we felt have had a good season, we've got Areola, Benrahma, Fabianski, Ogbonna, Emerson and Paqueta. As expected, no frills. We've got Antonio, Agerd, Bowen, Soufal, Creswell, Kehrer, and Danny Ings. In tad disappointing, the ones we had a little bit higher hopes for. We've got Downs, Fornals, Lanzini, Scamacca, and Soucek. And then in the bottom category, the M category, is Cornet and Ben Johnson. And I have to say, upon reading that out, I'm quite happy with our placement of the players.
Yeah, it's obviously that the further down you get, the more attacking players there are in it, and there are more defensive players up the top. Certainly, obviously, some buck the trend like Paqueta, but it's probably quite reflective of the way we play, really, and maybe something we might want to address ahead of next season. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this. What a double header, wasn't it? Little double header. Sort of thing we sort of tend to churn out at the end of the season. There's going to be lots to discuss as we discuss this now, at the day we record this. I do believe it's transfer window just opens today. So there's going to be loads and loads of stuff going on. It'd be interesting to see out of that group quite how many remain at West Ham. We know a couple are definitely leaving. Might be a few more. Geo, thanks for putting that together, mate.
No worries.
And all the rest of you, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. We'll catch you on the other side.